back to IGN's History of Awesome, a year-by-year breakdown of big events that shape pop culture. 2003 gave us The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, a game so beautiful and beloved it was remade a decade later. Bioware treated gamers with arguably the best Star Wars game ever with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and the mega franchise known as Call of Duty got its humble start. Over on the big screen, Captain Jack Sparrow would become a household name with Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. Bryan Singer would solidify superhero movies as a thing with X2, XMen United, and Tarantino shocked and stunned audiences with Kill Bill Volume 1. Obviously a lot was going on, so let's get talking.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to History of Awesome. I'll be your host this time out. I'm Damon Hatfield. I'm joined by Justin Davis, Joshua Yell, and Marty Sleva.
Yeah.
This time we're talking 2003.
Woo!
It's a great year.
What a year.
Was it a great year?
Has anyone ever
year.
said that was not a good year, and then it'd be like, why were you here?
It's been an interesting project. We're getting close-ish to the end. We've started in 1977, so we've done, over 20 episodes.
Yeah.
And looking through it, you do realize that some years are better than others, definitely.
Yeah.
2003 is one of the good ones.
Well, this is a really great year for movies. We'll get into that in a second. But as usual, let's start with video games.
Yeah.
The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
Yep.
Is it The Wind Waker, or is it just The
It is
Legend
The
of Zelda?
Wind Waker.
No,
Yeah.
I thought it was Wind Waker.
No, he's the.
The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
Yes,
I
he's
don't
the Waker
remember.
of Winds.
Yeah.
He's the Waker of Winds.
That's true.
Anyway.
He's got a talking boat.
That came out.
No, Wind Waker is my personal favorite Zelda game, and it's interesting because for many years I was alone, or I felt like I was alone in that belief. Like most people said Ocarina or Link to the Past, but as time has gone on and it got the HD re-release, more and more people awesomely have had the opportunity to kind of discover that game and sort of realize once they got past that it didn't have the art style that they originally thought they wanted, it took Zelda in a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. There was almost like universal backlash. Like, you're turning Zelda into a cartoon. And just people were so mad.
Yeah.
But once you played it, it was like, oh my god, this
You
is so
turned
good.
Zelda into a cartoon.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that's
a-
a great
it's-
thing.
yes.
Well, it feels really timeless, like it still holds up.
Yeah. So there was an initial backlash because a year or two prior, Nintendo had shown a demo,
Yeah.
a tech demo for a new Legend of Zelda game that presented the more like adult, realistic
It
version
looked
of
more
Link
like
battling Ganon.
Yeah.
And people thought that was the game they were going to get for GameCube. And then when Nintendo, pulled the cloth off the project, it was like, what is
Yeah.
this? This is not what we were promised.
I watched that demo reel like 100 times.
Yeah.
He does like the spin. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But from the very minute I saw Toon Link, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
I was like totally on board. I thought it was great.
And this was like, I feel like this was the most accurate representation of like what I imagined when I played the original Legend of Zelda. Like what I imagined this
yeah.
would look like. Like this was a cartoon. This wasn't like a super serious dark fantasy thing. So seeing just how expressive Link's eyes were and the cool little effects like enemies burst into clouds and
Yes, and the beautiful cell shading design of that.
totally. And like you said, like you have the King of Red Lions as you're talking boat bud, and there's this Tingles in it, who's this weird little dude.
When you play Wind Waker, the first several hours are pretty scripted, and it totally plays out like an animated film. And you can totally see Miyamoto seizing his opportunity to finally like create his like sort of Disney animated film that he's wanted to all these years.
Yeah, and it does a really smart, about halfway through the game, it does this really smart thing of how it ties into, previous Zelda games. And I guess, I don't know, can we spoil things?
Yeah,
Yes.
at this
But
point.
Full spoilers.
Yeah, full spoilers, but just like
15.
hitting that moment where you realize like, oh, this is a sequel to Ocarina of Time, and this is referencing places and events in that game.
Like that this happy, cheerful world is a post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And everything's underwater, and you're like, ooh, like there's actually, it is beneath the surface,
Ah.
but there is like kind of a darker storyline there than you might think at first glance. A lot of people sort of criticize Wind Waker for the Triforce quest at the end. I still find that criticism sort of strange because I didn't want that game to end. So the way that I was playing it is once I sort of sensed or realized that I was getting close to the end of the game, I was going from island to island. Like, you have this grid, it was 7 by 7, and that's how I played that game. Like, every night, okay, I'm gonna go explore 3 or 4 or 5 new islands. You roll up to an island, you never know what you're gonna find there. It could be some huge little mini dungeon, or it could be like a little mini game, and that sense of exploration was so strong and so satisfying that the Triforce quest never bothered me in the slightest because I was already kind of trying to stretch out the game as much as I could.
It definitely laid the groundwork for big open exploration games like Assassin's Creed for Black Flag.
Seriously. Yeah.
If I have a criticism of Wind Waker, it's that I guess maybe I disagree a little bit. There's not quite enough to explore for me. Like you get your treasure map, and 9 times out of 10 it seems like you put your crane down, and it's like, oh, I got 5 rupees.
Yeah.
All right, I'm glad I took the time to do that. You know?
Yeah.
They could have populated it with a little bit more to do, I think.
Yeah, totally.
fair.
But they did, I mean, like taking the frame of Ocarina of Time, the Z targeting and everything, and then really expanding on it with the, sort of interesting timing-based counters and parries and ability to pick up other enemies' weapons and
That
use
was
them
really
against
cool.
them, and just how like the use of fire a lot in combat. Just really, really smart additions to the series that, and like Justin said, I think this game has withstood the test of time and aged, visually it's aged probably better than almost any other game of that
the
generation.
nice thing about not going with realistic graphics.
Yeah,
You know?
is that it's timeless.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Apparently did not meet Nintendo's expectations in sales. Some figures I saw put it at about half the sales of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And Nintendo blames it on the visuals. They think that the visuals were just failed to connect with a lot of the Western audience.
You know who I blame it on? You. I don't know which camera.
I know, the camera hard to see. But I think that was why they pivoted for Twilight Princess and went back to a more
Yeah, with a real
more
cool
grown
wolf.
Link. But Toon Link's my favorite Link. Because from The Legend of Zelda, I always think of Link as a boy. Like,
Yeah,
in
like a little kid.
my mind, he's
Like
a little kid, yeah.
little child. And
Yeah.
I like that Toon Link sort of lives on, obviously through Smash, but he even got a couple of games of his own, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
the
like that.
Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks.
Which, you can take or leave those games. I don't think they're quite up to the same quality, but I like that there's sort of these two parallel paths of Zelda now, or there was for a while anyway.
Yeah. Did Minish Cap come after Wind Waker?
Yes.
I think so too.
Really?
It's another.
I thought it was before.
I believe so.
Is it before?
No, because I think that was Minish Cap also sort of had the Toon Linky look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Linky
that
look.
set the style, and that they then adopted for the DS games.
Yeah, for a lot of the handheld games.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Another big game from 2003, Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. One of the best role-playing games of all time, maybe the best Star Wars game of
Yeah.
all time.
One of the best games I've ever played.
Oh, yeah,
ever. Like, if
easily,
you asked
easily.
me my favorite game, like it'd be up there. It's hard to decide. And really, it was just like Star Wars before the movies, so it had so much freedom when like there were so many Jedi and Sith running around doing all this stuff. Great adventure where you had to like earn the lightsaber. Some people get mad when you don't, but because you have to go through terrorists, and I was like, oh my god, I hate going through this gauntlet. But when you got it, it was so sweet, right?
Yeah.
But of course, the big talking point of the game is that twist.
Yeah, which
That
is
twist,
amazing.
though. Oh
So,
my
yeah,
gosh.
We are going to spoil it. If you
gonna
haven't
spoil it.
played Knights of the Old Republic, please
this is
stop.
a-
Save yours.
Pause the episode, come back in 60 hours.
It's a 12-year-old game, yeah, so hopefully it's okay to talk about this. Yeah, but yeah, the big twist is that
You are Darth Revan. You're the bad guy that
You're the
everyone's been
bad
talking
guy,
about
yeah,
the
you-
whole game that disappeared.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember that. And then I remember I played it again to just experience it again and get the different ending. Then I played it again to see if there's like a neutral ending. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, this is Bioware, right? Like Bioware and Star Wars. Like it feels like one of those crazy combinations that you would never actually get. It's like there were rumors a while back, or not rumors. I think they're actually confirmed now that Bethesda was in talks to make a Game of Thrones game, an Ice of Fire game, and it's like one of those things that like.
you mean back then?
No, like
or just more
around
recently?
like
Around
a few
Skyrim
years
time,
ago.
okay.
Like this is just stuff that's sort of coming out now, and it's like this is the equivalent of that, but it actually happened. Like, and it was
Yeah.
great. Like it totally delivered.
And it really took BioWare from being a just traditionally viewed sort of hardcore PC RPG developer and brought them to consoles. We had this on the original Xbox. This was actually the game I bought my Xbox for.
Yeah, this was an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
It was a
Wow.
console exclusive. Well, I mean, it never came to PlayStation
true.
or Nintendo. It came to Xbox One first, and then a few months later came to PC.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Um,
So it was
yeah,
like a big Western exclusive on the Western console.
Yeah,
That's kind of
absolutely. And this was what sort of paved the way for BioWare to be able to develop Jade Empire and then Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and it really put them in that upper echelon of developers that we know them as today.
Yeah, I think Mass Effect, you can draw a direct line between the two. Like they sort of lost or didn't have that Star Wars license anymore. Still wanted to play around with what are they biotics in Mass Effect? What are they called? The powers that you have.
They're called
something-
effects.
Mass Effect.
So you have those are totally force powers,
Yeah.
right? So it's like they basically took their ball and said, you know what, fine, we're gonna make our own sci-fi universe and it's gonna be awesome. And it was, but it's like we wouldn't have Mass Effect without Knights of the Old Republic. So we owe that whole franchise to this role-playing game as well.
Yeah, I love that the battles are turn-based though. Like it's
That's
not
true.
a shooter.
That's super true.
Yeah. And it's one of those we had KOTOR 2 come out, which had a little, you can tell it
Don't
had,
bring
a
it up.
truncated development time.
Yeah.
Some of the game was
Different developer.
Could have been great.
Could have been
Yeah.
great. And then, we've had the Old Republic since then, but I think a lot of us are looking back and we're like, man, we want BioWare to do another traditional big single-player Star Wars game.
Well, like that era of Star Wars, Joshua, you touched on this earlier, is so interesting because you get sort of the, like, it's got lightsabers, and it's got the music, and it's got Jedi, and like all this stuff that people kind of know and love about Star Wars, but without any of the sort of baggage of A New Hope. I mean, I don't know, maybe baggage is being a little mean, but I just like that you get to play around in this world, but without having to deliver, like, it's got to have Darth Vader, and you got to have, like, the Millennium Falcon show up.
Yeah, but it did have, like, throwbacks to the original one, like when they raised that planet, but just by shooting a barrage of lasers across the whole surface. That was ridiculous.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think you mentioned wanting another big single-player Star Wars RPG from Bioware. I mean, now would be the time for that to happen, right? That Star Wars is back. It's in the hands of
EA
Disney.
really has that license still. So.
Yeah, well, there's EA. Well, yeah.
But I mean, it could happen.
I'm tempted to say they just don't make games like this anymore. But you know, Bioware last year did Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah,
that's
we're
big
getting a new
RPG.
Mass Effect, so.
Witcher 3 was this year.
Yeah.
It's just, if they did it again, I'd want it to be turn-based battle still.
Ooh, I don't know.
I know. Like that's the part of it that seems a little outdated, but I like that.
Yes.
It's actually, if someone hasn't played that game, obviously you can pick it up on Steam on the cheap, but
Also iOS.
I was just going to say that. The iPad version is, I wouldn't say it's like the superior way to play the game, but it's totally acceptable. I played around with it for several hours.
Yeah, and I think the turn-based nature helps with that because you don't really have to make decisions super quick.
They told great stories in the game. They had great characters like HK-47.
Yeah, he was a real
racist-
mean robo.
The
He was a
racist robot.
Meat
What
bags.
are you racist? If you're just
human
against, if you're against all humans,
Specious.
Specious. Yeah.
He was like the reason to play that game, aside from the awesome twist and all the other stuff
All
we
the
said.
other
But he's the reason you like remember it. And in other like games, they tried to like bring him back and like keep him a part of it. And then in the MMO, I think you could kind of like recruit. You had to collect pieces of him, I think, and then you could like bring him back and have him be part of
You
your
have to
crew.
build a racist.
Something like that. Something like that. But yeah, so he was definitely like one of the standout characters.
He was a
of
very
it
cool
all.
character.
Yeah.
But it was just it let you customize a lot because you could be whatever kind of, you could be the brawler Jedi, or you could be like more force powers. So I love just customizing it. And of course, I had 2 like purple lightsabers, and I was diving into combat like wow. So it was great. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the multiple endings depending on.
Yes.
I guess this is kind of an early example of a console game with a morality system,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Allowing you to be good or bad.
Yeah.
As the story goes, LucasArts and Bioware were in talks to do a Star Wars game. LucasArts gave them the option of doing a game based on Episode 2 or doing a game set 4,000 years in the past.
Ooh, they made the right choice.
Good decision.
But when you're in the moment, like that probably didn't feel like the right choice. Right?
I don't know.
Like,
I think.
and like they knew Episode 2 was going to be the biggest thing on Earth.
But then they also know that
But
Episode 1 was
knew,
real bad.
Ooh, yeah.
So they're like, don't want to be tied into that. I think it's cool to go. I don't know how many properties you have the option of even going 4,000 years
Yeah, seriously.
into the past, and you're still in that same universe.
Yeah.
Fun fact: 4,000 years ago, we were just taming horses.
Us here in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mankind. Our history is less exciting.
Yeah, less exciting than.
It is. It's funny how video games are like that, right? Or just fiction in general. Like 4,000. Like think about how different our world looks than it did 4,000 years ago. But Star Wars, not that different.
No, yeah.
Still
lightsabers.
All the same technology.
Still had racist robos.
That's when they were taming tauntauns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
A lot easier with the Force, though.
There you go.
One more note: Bioware did all the programming, design, story, but the audio was all handled by LucasArts.
Ooh, that's a fun fact.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Also in 2003, the first Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that Call of Duty is only 12 years old.
Only 12 years old.
There's been 45
been-
Call of Duties since.
45 million
Yeah.
Call of Duties since.
We were talking about, this was a
first
PC only.
It was PC only, is that
Yeah.
true? Wow.
Yeah.
And it was Infinity Ward's first game. The first game as the studio.
There's kind of an interesting history there where the original Call of Duty was PC only, and then a couple of games later, it would move completely to console. I think 3 was only on console, and then after that, it was sort of on everything. So there were some weird ups and downs in the early years.
Yeah, and it was interesting too because it was looking at, sort of Medal of Honor was the series that was owning World War II shooters
Yep, Steven
back
Spielberg.
then. Steven Spielberg. It had that amazing level that was very much cribbing from Saving Private Ryan.
Yep.
But then, Infinity Ward released this game and it had this like 3-pronged campaign where you played as a British soldier, an American soldier, and a Soviet soldier, and it just this really amazing cinematic storytelling that, right from the get-go, it's easy to look forward and say like, well, Call of Duty 2 was the game that brought it to 360, and then Modern Warfare was obviously the game that changed, shooters in general. But really, like, it was the quality of that first game, and it got a ton of Game of the Year awards. It was that quality coming out the gate that really sort of put that series on a map and allowed them to, later on make the changes in the industry that they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think the original Call of Duty, it's interesting. It's an interesting game to go back and look at now because you can see sort of the kernels of what's still in that franchise. Like the campaign placed a premium on kind of squad mates. Like you're not a lone soldier. Like you are part of this like army that's like trying to press in advance like through, you know, the different stages, and that's something that the Call of Duty campaigns still kind of feel that way.
Yeah, usually like part of a team.
Yeah.
And so they're definitely like you're right that Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4, that's the one that like the franchise was one thing, and then after that it was a different thing. But there's still like less has changed than you might think when you go back and look at the original, at least on the single player side.
Yeah, well, what was the multiplayer like with the original Call of Duty?
I don't know. I didn't have too much experience with it.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, generally it wasn't as in the multiplayer department. Battlefield was the game that was, you know, at the time way superior in terms of, you know, the suite of options you had and the amount of people playing it and the sort of the insanity that stemmed from the sandbox. Yeah, I mean, honestly, multiplayer in Call of Duty wasn't huge until Modern Warfare. Like that's the multiplayer in Call of Duty 2 isn't what I remember from that game. It was that amazing campaign and the fact that this was the only thing I wanted to play on my 360 at launch.
It slowly picked up steam. Like I feel like a lot of people played 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like it just slowly built over time and then really exploded with Modern Warfare.
Yeah. It also, it was smart. It sort of set the precedent for these very short, tight campaigns, which Call of Duty games have had pretty much since. That was actually one of the, a lot of people at the time were faulting the game for having a short, like 6-hour campaign, but I think that's become a thing that people really appreciate, especially when you know, it balances out with the, you know, multiplayer that people play for months, but it's kind of cool to be able to sit down in 2 or 3 sittings, finish an entire like story that has all these really cool cinematic beats.
It's funny to look back, you know, now that we have, you know, just time has passed and we can look back at the original. You know, it came out, it was a big hit, you know, critically successful, commercially successful, but you wouldn't guess that, like, you know, 12 years, 13 years later,
It would be the biggest game.
that it's the biggest thing in video games, period. Like, it's kind of surprising how, like,
maybe,
it's something
maybe today Minecraft is bigger. But
That's true.
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah, League
I
of
mean, there was a
Legends.
time when
Okay.
it was literally the biggest thing in video games.
one of the biggest, you know, in the
Not
face
literally,
of-
but it was the biggest thing.
But it's like, then it makes you wonder, like, is there some weird, smaller thing happening now that in 13 years will be like, man,
What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe it's a
Ukulele?
topic for a future game.
It's ukulele.
I couldn't come up with a snarky answer to pass.
Yeah, and it's easy to, it's really easy to sort of hate on Call of Duty or any annualized franchise. People tend to do that online. But you have to look at it in sort of just awe and respect and be like, man, look what these people built. They built like an empire in the course of just over a decade.
Employs thousands of people, makes billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And again, like whether you love them or hate them, they're consistent. Like they're putting out a very consistent product that, you know, even if it does have some problems, like it's good, right? Like it's very good every single year.
A lot of people do really, really enjoy it, so
Yeah.
there has to be something there.
Yeah, and it's one of those games that breaks into the mainstream that you see, you know, Monday Night Football has commercials for, and it's on the side of buses, and there's terrible Twitter campaigns that scare people into thinking there's a terrorist attack.
Well, so the first, trying to remember, the first Medal of Honor was like 98, I want to say.
Yeah, that was.
So at that point, you know, that series had been around for 5 years until Call of Duty. And then Call of Duty was still set in World War II for another
couple of years,
for
3 games.
5 years.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah.
That was like a long reign of World War II shooters.
Yeah, we had Brothers in Arms back then too.
Right, like Call of Duty was another blank of blank shooter.
Yeah.
It was like it was an especially good one and a standout one, but it wasn't special like it would become later.
Yeah, it's true.
You're special.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, moving over to the movie side of things. This was a huge year for movies. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. That whole trilogy ended that year.
And this was the this was sort of the Academy giving just 13
I
awards.
think it was 11.
11, yeah.
They crowned him 11 times.
Yeah, and this was sort of the like we're giving it to you for the entire breadth.
Yeah.
of the
Yeah,
work.
because the
Nominated
other two
for-
got nominated.
Nominated for 11 awards and won all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and none of them were acting awards, which is crazy.
It was funny. Someone got up for an award, and there was like a different category that Lord of the Rings wasn't nominated for, and their acceptance speech was, "I'm just so glad that Lord of the Rings was not nominated for this category."
Yeah.
But it really was such a good finish to that, because the first one was like the introduction to the world, and it had a couple things like here and there that, you know, and then the second one really just this long epic fight scene, which was cool. but the third one just reached that other level, right? Of just so many like iconic moments. So with obviously Gollum like falling in with the rank, spoiler, but also just like kind of smaller moments of like Gandalf riding out into the field to fend off the wraiths with his staff. Just a little burst of magic. There wasn't like it's not like Harry Potter where they're doing magic in every other scene. So they really knew how to like keep the fantasy in check. So when you did see it, it blew your mind. And it was just something else.
It was also insane that so many people were willing to go sit in a movie theater for over 3 hours. I think the theatrical cut, I think, is over 3 hours. It has,
just the
it has
theatrical
115 endings.
Well, that was a joke. They got nominated for 11 awards, one for each ending.
I mean, I feel like, again, in hindsight, incredible movie, classic trilogy, but going into it, it feels like a miracle that those movies were good at all.
I agree. I remember being very skeptical when I heard they were doing this.
I mean, rightly
Lord of the Rings
right?
trilogy, and it was Peter Jackson, who I liked. I like
Brain Dead.
I like Dead Alive,
and Frighteners.
He's like
and
this like goofy like splatter director, and now he's going to do this epic fantasy trilogy. It's like,
and based on what we've seen about Peter Jackson since, I mean, I actually like King Kong and some of his other stuff, but generally, like he had this career beforehand, and then boom, Lord of the Rings. And then sort of some weird stuff afterwards. And it's like, what were you doing right there? It's like so incredible.
Why did you lose weight? It must have been the weight.
We need Fat PJ back.
And it was such an amazing, when you look at the trilogy as a whole, and the first movie, sort of setting up this world and this visual style and sort of the rules of the world.
And it's a road movie. Like, it does feel really different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then the second movie, like you said, literally the back half is almost entirely Helm's Deep. And then you getting in the third movie and it being able to tie up all the loose ends and really deliver, like, every one of the principal 20 main characters gets a really awesome and emotional moment. That range from like badass stuff like the ghost coming out or Orlando Bloom killing all the elephants.
That still only counts as one. It's so good. And that woman like, I'm not a man. Like, I'm no man. Kills like, the head guy.
All these rad moments, and then the fact that I think the next year when it came out on DVD, the extended edition, like people were like, yes, I want to see another hour of this movie.
More. Well, we got to see Saruman's scenes because they were cut out of the theatrical release.
That's right.
They just kind of like ignored that he was still alive.
I love those extended editions so much, both the films and the special features, that I forget. It's all blurred to me. Like I haven't watched the regular editions of those movies in a decade. I only ever see the extended.
And you mentioning Christopher Lee and Ian McKellen, just like some world-class actors dressing up as wizards. That's so good. Much like the Harry Potter franchise. Just getting top-notch talent to be in these movies, it's just career making for a lot of people. So good.
Like you said, it combined with these actors who'd had these amazing careers beforehand, and then sort of introduced people to Viggo Mortensen and Orlando Bloom and
these people that have been
Carl
around,
Urban.
or like Elijah Wood, like people that hadn't really had a chance to like show their. It's such a miracle that it didn't turn out like a terrible camp. Like
I know, it's crazy to think
that
of.
every actor is like perfect for the like. I can't imagine any character being a different actor. It's just like, yep, that's that character.
I love that it opens with Smeagol's flashback.
Yes.
I feel like because it's so long, the whole the trilogy is so long that he actually has time to do things like that, like he would if it were a TV series. Like you can have flashbacks and do all these.
I actually thought I was in the wrong movie, right? Because I didn't understand. I was like, "What is this?"
It was also looking at it and paralleling it with the prequel trilogy, the Star Wars trilogy, just how satisfying this was compared to how disappointing.
How many film trilogies actually deliver the way that this one does? Like,
normally a lot don't. Like they drop the ball in the third one. Like even like the Dark Knight trilogy, the third one wasn't very good. Spider-Man 3 wasn't very good. X-Men 3, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it.
Need we even mention the Matrix trilogy? It's an incredible achievement that this worked, and it worked so well.
Went on a high note.
We also owe Lord of the Rings, and the first Lord of the Rings and the first Harry Potter came out the same year in the movies, and we owe sort of the continued over a decade later resurgence of fantasy to those two franchises.
Yeah, I mean Game of Thrones.
We wouldn't have Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we have Game of Thrones now, but I'm trying to think of fantasy in theaters now that we have going on or looking forward to, and I can't.
Last Witch Hunter, isn't there a Nick Cage movie?
Hey, I'm actually looking forward to that.
It's not Nick Cage. I don't think so. No.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of.
I think it's Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
They're easily mixed. Interchangeable eventually.
Hey, I'm Last Witch Hunter. But so the thing is that a lot of false starts happen because of these movies, though. Because I remember Aragon, they tried to get that going. There's like a Legend of the Seeker, they tried to get that going.
What was it? Oh, there was one this year, the sixth son of the seventh.
Oh yeah, a lot of real.
Son.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
something
real
like that.
Seventh son, something like that. Anyway, Return of the King was the #1 movie of the year in 2003. But 2003 also, as one trilogy was laid to rest, we started the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. The Curse of the Black Pearl. The first one was released that year. And talk about things that should not have worked.
Yes, not at all.
We're making a movie based on a ride.
Is Johnny Depp doing anything? Yeah, bring him in.
Do you know that before that movie, Johnny Depp was not known for making blockbuster films?
No.
He just did like weird art house films.
Yeah, and he was Tim Burton's bro.
Yeah.
That's why, like, he always says in interviews that, sure, he'll make Pirates movies till the end of his, like, sure, yeah, sign me up. Another 3 Pirates movies, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I can see why.
It's another generation of my family that doesn't have to work.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, and it's, again, that's easy to, this is another trilogy that's sort of got a bit bloated by the end. And it's a
Pirates
little,
1 is totally legit.
Pirates 1
Pirates
is
one's
like
good.
the perfect summer popcorn movie in my mind.
It's a great adventure movie. It's a great, like, ever since I think Treasure Island, pirate movies were sort of box office poison.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cutthroat Island, and
That's the
Waterworld.
one I was thinking of,
It really was Jack Sparrow, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny thing, he wasn't even the main character.
No.
It was
Well, not
really
in that one.
Yeah, they made him. He was more of a supporting character, and it was just his style, the way he walked, the way he talked, his look. Just so weird, and just how I don't know how he came up with that. Of course, he's talked about it before.
Yeah,
I almost don't even want to
Richards.
know. Yeah, Keith Richards' voice. But that really was like the draw of it. It was just so watchable, and you just wanted to see him do it again and again. There's a lot of repeat showings. It's something that kind of grew at the box office as word of mouth spread.
That might be one of the, I think that and Iron Man are the only 2 movies in, like, my adult life that I think I saw twice in theaters.
Yeah.
Oh wow, really? I've seen a lot of trash toys.
I mean, I think you're totally right that he makes that movie, and that was totally an accident, right? Like, it's not an accident, but not intended. Like, it's not like he was directed that way.
He was not the box office draw that he is today back then.
Right. Yeah. And it is one of those movies too where, yes, even if you remove Johnny Depp, which is arguably the most important part of the movie, is you have this amazing villain and these awesome zombie pirates with Jeffrey Rush, and you have this really great sort of
great set design, great character design,
like really good. Like Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom are great in it.
It's
It's funny. It's a little bit scary. The action's great. A lot of the melding of natural photography with CG works really well.
It's also got like a perfect combination. The later movies would take it too far, but like double cross and twists and turns. What are characters' motivations, all the way up to like the final sort of climactic sword fight at the end. You're still not exactly sure who's on whose side, and it walks that line perfectly, whereas the future movies kind of topple over it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Pirates 1, totally legit. And it's that franchise that they keep, I'm like, okay, Pirates 2, 3, and 4, no good, but 5, I think I'm on board.
Also, before this movie, there was no Pirates versus Ninjas debate. People just knew ninjas would win anything, but after this movie, they're like, what if they went against pirates?
That's why when I heard the third one was going to have parts set in Asia, I was like, oh, they do Pirates versus Ninja. And then they did some weird thing. I had no idea what was going on.
Oh, that third movie was weird.
I know.
When he has that existential crisis in the desert.
I straight up.
That went on like way too long.
And the giant woman.
Did not like that.
I will say this, the second one, they didn't plan on having a second one, so they invented a lot of things that they picked up, like the compass is suddenly very important and all these things, and it set up a lot of things that I was very interested in. So I watched the second one a lot, especially in the lead up into the third one. Like, oh, the payoff is going to be so good. Like, how is Tia Doma important? And all this stuff with the chest. And I was like, whoa, no. Like 15-minute action scene with 2 different ships going into like a maelstrom. And Jack swinging from one to the other.
There are at least great action scenes in the second film, and the Kraken was really cool.
Kraken was cool. Davy Jones is amazing.
And then they kill it off screen for
I know.
the third one.
It's dead.
What?
Did I miss the first part of the movie? It's really dumb.
Whatever you like, the second and third movies, maybe not great films, but just the eye candy, incredible.
Yeah.
It's the imagination that's on display.
The sword fight in the wheel as it was going down the hill, so good.
Yeah, that was really fun.
The last thing I want to say about Pirates is just.
I have one more thing to say.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Just so you know.
The actual last thing.
That sense of adventure is just really strong. That's what I really liked about Fellowship of the Ring. That's what I like about Pirates 1, and that's a big part of the reason why I like to go to the movies is just like, let's go on an adventure, and it's great, and it works, and they really, really nail that vibe.
Have you ever seen the movie Blue Valentine?
Yeah.
That's an adventure into heartbreak.
No, it does have a lot of like going on to a hidden island with cursed gold and everything. So it hits all the pirate tropes and makes them so entertaining.
Oh, I read a story that the director Gore Verbinski, who was following up The Ring, by the way,
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
It wasn't his choice to add the subtitle Curse of the Black Pearl, and he actually didn't like that title because it's the Aztec gold that's cursed, not the ship. And he was like, it's not, the ship's not cursed.
That's really good.
It's the curse for the people on the ship.
That's pretty good.
Curse of the Aztec gold would have been a weird.
And one more fun fact: Pirates of the Caribbean was Disney's first PG-13 movie.
Wow.
Because before that, they used Touchstone Pictures to put all their PG-13, more adult stuff on.
Right.
Yeah.
What in the movie? I think was it the scary skeleton people?
Probably. Yeah.
The skeleton monkey.
Yeah, that was a little spooky.
I don't know, there's some blood at the end too. A guy gets stabbed.
Oh yeah, not like a lot of blood though, right?
There was that extended hardcore fornication scene.
All right. Also in 2003,
It's like all right, enough of that.
All right.
Sorry, go on.
we got X2, X-Men United.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorite superhero movies.
It's up there.
One of the best comic book movies.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think still the best X-Men. Days of Future Past was epic.
I think that is
but
the
I
best
think
X-Men. Yeah.
Yeah.
X2 for me it's just so good. That opening scene,
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler set to the Mozart
Yeah.
music, attacking, using his powers in just crazy, awesome ways,
Yeah.
and it really nailed the character. Like that's how you wanted to see him brought to life. And Alan Cumming, like bless him for sitting through all that makeup and stuff.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
Nightcrawler looked awesome.
Yeah.
That could have looked weird,
Yeah.
but it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like so many cool things, and it really hit the theme of sort of us versus them. Like humans hate mutants, and this whole like government guy trying to get rid of all of them, like kill them all at the same time because it's personal baggage. But in the first one, he didn't really get that because it was mutant versus mutant. But this one, the X-Men teaming with their villains to overcome the humans, because they have to protect the humans at the end, because they have to protect those who hate and fear them. It's the X-Men. It's so pure, so quintessential. I love it.
Yeah, I mean the social commentary, like Bryan Singer was really able to sort of play with that in really interesting ways with the Stryker dynamic and everything.
Yeah.
And it was also, I think, the first I thought Hugh Jackman was great casting in X1, but in this movie when he goes berserk in the mansion, like that is
That's
the
what I
like
wanna-
that's the Wolverine from my childhood. That's what I want to see.
I still don't think any film has really captured the Wolverine that he is in the comics.
Yeah.
He's a total lunatic berserker. But this movie gets the closest.
Yeah,
yeah.
in that
to
scene
capturing
where he's
that.
protecting the
And
kid.
Stabs that guy in the toes.
Yeah.
Ah!
The first cut of the movie got an R rating, and then they had to cut a few seconds out to get the 13.
Huh, interesting.
Because
Probably
of
when he
Wolverine.
eviscerated a couple of them and their guts fell out, and they're like, maybe we should cut
That's
that out.
crazy when he gets the guy in the chest, and, he freaks out,
yeah.
and Iceman's like hiding
Yeah,
behind
it
him.
really got the berserker rage down. I like that. And you mentioned social commentary, and it really did. One of my favorite scenes is Iceman's like coming out scene, where like you had the exact same conversation if you're coming out to your parents as gay, but it's him coming out as a mutant, and his family's reactions are just so like, do you have a problem being? It's like, okay, have you tried not being a mutant?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Wolverine's like, what's
That's
wrong
really
with being a mutant?
Yeah, totally.
So
There's so many good moments. Wolverine pulls his claws on the cat.
Yeah.
The cat
And it
licks his
licks it.
claws.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. There's a lot of characters, but it doesn't feel like bloated.
Yeah.
Like it's a very.
they knock
easy to
Cyclops
follow.
out halfway through because they don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, and it definitely, again, this is another, like, the less we speak of X3, the better. But this was a movie, it was that perfect, taking a world set in the first movie, adding onto it without tipping it over and becoming bloated.
Becoming Avengers 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking of
Avengers 2 isn't that bad.
I do think it was bloated.
A little bit.
I would
There's a lot of
say.
characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie that,
Lot.
just to compare, I mean, we don't need to spend too much time talking about Avengers 2, but like X2, you're exactly right, balances, this giant team of heroes and this giant team of villains and other, third parties with their own motivations, but it doesn't feel
I feel like it's very easy to follow. And
Yeah, it's great.
it zips along.
And I gotta mention the ending.
I like the ending.
One of the best endings that led to nothing ever, because it was such a, from the very beginning, you get something that's off with Jean, and then in the middle she uses her powers, and like sort of the fire erupts in her eyes, and she of course sacrifices herself, and then under the end, as Professor Xavier is talking, that monologue, pan over the lake, and you see just the barest outline of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh my God! So there was fans like everywhere were just like losing their minds. Oh, it's gonna be so good. But then of course, Bryan Singer leaves the franchise to go to Superman. Brett Renner takes over. You get just the Phoenix, who was really just a woman in a red dress with bad cataracts. It's like, where's the Firebird? It was in the last movie. He went there, just kept follow up. Oh, so bad. One of the biggest cinematic disappointments as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
This is our next installment of History of Awful.
Can we do that series next?
Nope.
28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Really good, really important zombie film that sort of changed what everyone's perceptions of what zombies could be.
Yeah. This.
Fast Zombies was the thing. It
Yeah.
started
Oh, yeah.
that whole thing.
Instead of lumbering zombies that you could just walk around and shoot in the head, they sprinted at you, and then even if they didn't bite you, they would vomit up blood in your face.
Also, I don't think they even eat you in
I
that
think they just
movie.
kill
I
you.
think
Just tear
they're
you
just like
apart.
tear you apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
jerks.
just like they're the rage zombies.
Yeah. This was Danny Boyle, who beforehand had been known for stuff like Train Spotting and The Beach, and Shallow Grave. Like him, sort of being able to enter this completely different world that was way different than anything else he's ever made. But he really made it his own, and again, introducing a lot of just incredible casting with Cillian Murphy and Brendan Gleeson.
The opening of that movie is really haunting and unique and strange.
I think it was. They had to shut down large segments of London streets.
I think they
would
filmed
do
it
like
right at dawn. Right?
dawn on like Sunday morning when it'd
Yeah.
be the least crowded and the least disruptive.
Yeah, that was super surreal to see that so much of that was done. Obviously, there was some CG, but so much of it was done practically that they actually were able to take this massive, sprawling, iconic city and empty it for a little bit.
It's always been like the zombie trope is always like, who are the real monsters? It's us all along. But like that movie actually delivers that message in a way that really sticks with you and is meaningful and doesn't feel tropey. At the end, when I think he gouges the guy's eyes out, and then
Wait, did that happen in?
is that? Am I thinking of the sequel?
I think in the
28
sequel.
months later?
28 weeks
20
later.
weeks later?
Yeah.
Weeks
Which is
later.
also pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, never mind then.
The husband gouges his wife's eye because she's a carrier. Remember, the wife is
What
found.
happens in the first one? Is the mansion in the first one? Am I getting
Yeah,
these
the
movies
the
confused?
mansion is at the end of the first one, where like the soldiers
and
are
then
all
he's
holed up.
covered. He's covered in this blood and grime, and then you don't know for a second whether he's a zombie or not.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like he's
Yeah.
been so brutal
That's
to like
weird.
defend the people that he cares about. That
Do they do the eye gouge thing in both movies?
I mean, I think it's a callback, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And I just like that moment where it's like he has to be so brutal and violent that you don't know whether
Yeah.
he's turned or not.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I mean now you can sort of scoff because it seems like we're so inundated with zombies in fiction, whether it be stuff like The Walking Dead or Dying Light
Yeah,
or games, movies, TV shows. But this, I mean, they sort of wasn't really a big thing back then. This was before the first issue of The Walking Dead, and definitely before The Walking Dead became the sensation that it was today. And
Yeah,
so,
World War Z, like it predates all
yeah,
that. right?
yeah.
I think it was before Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, it was. I like that movie. Yeah, and so just the things it did so well, and it was like an artistic zombie movie.
Yeah.
It's become like one of the quintessential zombie films.
Yeah.
You know, if you're into fast zombies, if that's your thing, this is the one.
The theatrical release had a hopeful ending, kind of a happy ending.
Oh, yeah.
But there are 3 alternate endings that are all terrible. All real sad. And you can see those on the DVD release.
Yeah.
I will also say, in the same vein as making zombies faster and just that more brutal, that had an effect on the vampire genre with 30 Days a Night, where instead of making them these like sexy, tiny fanged guys who are like tragically misunderstood creatures of the night, they were just like rows of shark teeth.
Yeah.
And they did not have, and there's nothing misunderstood. They just wanted to eat people.
Yeah, they were
blood
like bloated,
everywhere.
horrifying.
Oh yeah. So that influence kind of touched other supernatural creatures.
I like sexy zombies.
Sexy zombies, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Lestat and
Yeah.
wasn't it
Well, that's
Brad Pitt and
vampires.
Tom Cruise?
Yeah,
Those are
incredible.
vampires.
No, those are vampires.
He wants sexy zombies.
Sexy zombie. Oh, sorry.
Like the Nicholas Hoult movie. What was that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah,
romantic
Warm
comedy.
Bodies.
Warm
Bodies.
That's cute.
A couple things we need to mention before we close out this episode. Kill Bill Volume 1 was released in 2003.
Are you a Volume 1 guy?
Oh, I'm a Quentin Tarantino guy.
Right,
So
but I mean, if you had to pick between 1 and 2.
I like to claim them as one movie and say that is my favorite Tarantino movie.
All right.
Oh,
He actually
wow.
was intended it to be one movie.
Yeah.
I'm a Volume 1 guy.
I like it better.
I like Volume 1 because it's got the cool fights and all the
I mean, it
setup
has
and
those
stuff.
phenomenal fights.
Yeah, but and the second one I love the Superman talk.
Superman
but,
talk's really good.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. But I'm a comics guy, so.
I'm not like, I've become more of a film buff as the years have gone on, but at this time in my life, I'm a teenager. I'm not a huge follower of film, and Kill Bill is one of the first times that I really sort of understood or recognized the style of a movie.
It's doing so many cool things. It's like in chapters, but it's jumping around to different time periods.
And he's like,
there's
oh,
a flashback that's animated. It's
Yeah,
like,
totally.
It's the first time that direction really, I'm like, oh, man. Like, I'd loved movies before that, but I hadn't really picked up on like the long tracking shot before.
He's not just like telling a story. He's like showing off all of his like
and
techniques and tricks.
When I think of action scenes that like stick with me, I always associate that was House of Blue Leaves with the Crazy 88s. That and then the lobby scene from The Matrix. And the thing that works for both of them is it does such a phenomenal job of setting up the geography of the space.
So you know
It's
ahead
you
of
know
time.
where everyone is, and you understand what's happening there. Whereas like a lot of action movies now are just quick cuts and you're disorientated. Like that tracking shot where the camera zooms up and it follows her all the way to the bathroom. And it's like, how is any human being doing this? And if that guy tripped, everyone had to redo it, and I would feel bad.
Yeah. And I like that at the end of the Crazy 88 fight, they're not all dead. They're all just
some like missing limbs.
And she says you can take your limbs, or no, you can walk out, but I'm keeping your limbs.
Yeah, they're mine. And had that great follow-up line in the second the volume. Remember when the Paime, I think it was, with the beard. He took her arm. He's like, this arm is mine now.
Yeah.
And so that it all fit together so well. They really thought about it.
Yeah.
They had of course, a ton of throwbacks to old, like classic martial arts movies. Yeah. The yellow jumpsuit, obviously very iconic from Bruce Lee. Hattori Hanzo. And you get a Hattori Hanzo sword that can cut through other swords.
Yeah.
So cool.
Super good. Finally on TV, Arrested Development started airing in 2003.
Yep. And none of you watched it, that's why it was canceled.
Like
3 seasons is a good run.
Like so many great shows that we talk about on Super of Awesome, it was an incredible show that had pretty low ratings.
But it did get 3 seasons. I mean, that's really more than...
And
it limped into the 3rd season.
2 really good seasons.
Yeah, and to be honest, we probably could have left it at that. Like, that's probably all Arrested Development really needed.
Yeah.
The last year's Netflix reboot didn't really do much for me.
Some stuff gets revitalized and it's awesome, and some stuff comes back and it's not so awesome. I do think, to me, Arrested Development is one of the first shows that really, really benefited from DVD. Like, the jokes were so nested. And callbacks 4 episodes later, and like everyone says, audiences just aren't smart enough to watch this show. But you have to remember, like that might be 6 weeks later. Like you're not sitting and marathoning the show.
Yeah, like it rewarded long-term viewers, but sort of discouraged newcomers.
Yeah, and that's a weakness of the show because the whole show is one long ongoing joke, which is crazy, and it's not really great for episodic TV. But binging, perfect. It's so funny, and you can remember all the jokes and Buster's hand and the banana stand.
Being able to foreshadow him getting his hand bit off like a season ahead. It is insane. Yeah, and like you said, the fact the repeat jokes makes it funny. So if you're watching an episode with someone who they've never seen it, they're like, why are you laughing at candy beans? Or why are you laughing at them making fun of the hand?
Or just all the Tobias, veiled things.
I blew myself. And then the chicken thing. Like, has anyone in this family ever seen a chicken?
Having Ron Howard be the narrator who provides exposition, but also commentary. It's really
That's great.
I rewatch Arrested Development every 3 or 4 years. It's still great, and I notice new things each time, things that I didn't pick up on before. Just jokes that I don't know, like there's always money in the banana stand coming back a season later.
Yeah, and it is one of those shows, sort of like how we mentioned with Lord of the Rings, or even like Firefly. Like those actors are forever going to be associated with that. Like even though afterwards they've gone on and done amazing things like Archer, and some of them have done episodes of 30 Rock and stuff. Like always to me, it is these iconic characters.
It launched the careers of Michael Cera.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Several other ones. It reinvigorated Jason Bateman's
career.
Yeah.
Will Arnett.
Will Arnett. That's sort of been him.
Michael Cera.
Yeah.
That little boy.
Yeah, I know. Finally, Chappelle's Show started airing in 2003.
Yeah.
That was very of the time. Like that was like the sketch show of the time.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. It's easy to forget how sort of culturally relevant and ahead of its time it was then. Because when you go back now, you're not really understanding. But the fact that he's working with Kanye West when Kanye West was a producer and hadn't even released his first album yet, and he has Kanye on the show, and sort of the social commentary that's going on, that really comedy wasn't doing that. There was no voice on, especially in mainstream. This was airing on Comedy Channel. No one was sort of pushing boundaries like that and really making incredible social commentary at that level.
Also, Rick James.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the comment I was going to make is like those jokes feel sort of tired now, but that's only because they reached everyone in the country to a degree that like almost nothing else ever does. Like even if you've never seen an episode of Chappelle's Show in your life, you picked up on it through sort of this osmosis through culture. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, and like people knew Dave Chappelle from stuff like Half Baked and everything, but this sort of put him in that rarefied atmosphere, and then especially sort of him having a breakdown afterwards and quitting showbiz for a while, and then even now when he pops up when he does sort of really spur of the moment stand up in San Francisco, the tickets could be $500 and they'll sell out within 5 minutes because it's such just like people just want to be in the same room as him as he chain smokes and drinks and tells jokes and just rambles.
Yeah. All right, that's a brief history of everything that made 2003 awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining me here, Justin, Joshua, and Marty.
Yeah.
My name is Damon. Stay tuned. We still have more to come in our History of Awesome series. What year will be next? You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
I hope it's 2004.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining us. This is IGN's History of Awesome. We're out.